Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for an episode of Art and Victory here at Yellow Dog Coffee in downtown Norman. I want to thank them for hosting us and thank you all for attending. I have two fantastic panelists. We are going to be speaking on the subject of branding for creatives. Most people, when they hear branding or they're thinking about branding, they're thinking of like small businesses, but branding is important to musicians, filmmakers, and writers as well. So I'd like to get started. If you wouldn't mind, Vincent, let's start with you. Introduce yourself.
Okay. Um, my name is Vincent Lee, and from my accent, you can tell I'm not from here. I'm known as an Okiporean, Oki being that I'm an Oklahoman resident for the last 24 years. The Porian part is my citizenship. I'm a Singapore citizen, and so I was once given this name just because of being here for so long and also part of the Singaporean in me. And I have been in this line of work doing brand strategy for since 2015. And before that, I was a self-taught graphic designer. I've always loved graphic design and make that move to strategizing for brand that goes beyond just the design aspect of things. So that's about me in a nutshell.
And Jenny, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Jenny Bergen. I'm a local artist. I am a self-taught artist. I started painting during COVID. I was a structural engineer for 12 years, and during my time as a structural engineer, I did business development and brand management. I unintentionally went from the technical side to the people side. And so I was able to develop brand and marketing strategies for companies, not for myself, but for about 12 years before I went a little crazy. COVID hit, and I ended up quitting my job. And now I own Studio Jayberg, which is on Main Street in Norman, Oklahoma. And now I'm a full-time artist, and I'm doing this every day.
Well, let's get started just with some basic questions. What is the essence of a strong brand identity for artists? Vincent, I'll let you start.
Okay, sure. To me, I believe there's two main things. One, you have to know yourself well, and the people that have touched base with you need to remember you well. So to me, those are the two essential identity as a brand.
Yeah, I want to add that with authenticity. I think being authentic to yourself, you can force art every day, but it's not going to come out well. And if it's an authentic art and you actually are enjoying making it and it's actually feeding your soul, there's going to be a difference there, and people are going to be able to take away from that.
Again, as I talked earlier, most people think of brand identity and branding for businesses. So how is it kind of different for artists? Jenny?
Well, I'll tell you, it's easy for me to sell a company. It is incredibly hard for me to sell myself. I don't know why. Is that common for? Yeah, I can sell snow to an Eskimo, but I can't sell myself for some reason. It's almost that imposter syndrome. So it's getting over that and acknowledging that you do have a right to be in that creative space.
To me, I tend to think of a brand as a two-sided coin. So if you have a business, your business brand is just one side of the coin, and your personal brand is just the flip side of it. And it's mirroring each other that is key to, I feel, running a successful business that has a true brand identity.
So what are some of the key elements that constitute a brand artist brand? Jenny, maybe why don't you start with some of the examples of your brand specifically?
Well, I actually had to chat GPT this because
Good.
I'm a prepper. I'm always going to do my homework before I go do something. So I obviously wanted to be prepared for this, and so I was really intrigued with what Chat GPT had to say. And some of the things it talked about was a unique visual style, consistent voice and tone, and authenticity. So what I took away from that was unique, consistent, and authentic. That's what I strive for, and I feel like I even struggle with myself every day.
So, like I alluded to earlier, starting out as a graphic designer, I get approached to design logos and brochure quite a bit. And over time, I realized that we either overcomplicate brand or we don't know enough of it. And so a few years ago, I developed what I call the brand system. And it's essentially 5 key questions that make up the acronym of the word brand to help business owners remember those things that is key to their brand identity. And so in short, I'm going to cut it real quick. The 5 letters are B, R, A, and D. B basically stands for the word business. What are you in the business of selling? R is all about who are you trying to reach, all right? A is what are you doing? How do you act every day for A? And what is your niche? And this goes beyond your products and services. And then D, what drives you? What drives you to excel? So to me, these are the 5 key components of a brand that all business owners, big or small, can always be asking themselves and reevaluating what their brand identity is.
So, how important would you say is consistent branding for artists?
I think consistent branding is incredibly important. It is how you are remembered, down to the fact that I wear pink. This is like so stupid and superficial, but I wear pink for any engagement that I have to do with Art by J. Berg. It's just because I want to be remembered by that, and I want my art, if you've seen my art, it's very joyful, it's bright, it's loud. So I want to be remembered by that brand. So just even those final details.
Yeah, and to add on to that, color is a very important brand component, and consistency is key, right? So not only how people see you in terms of what you choose to wear, but also what you choose to say, and how you choose to react to different things, and being consistent in that. So it's not just how consistently are you selling a product or offering a service. Yeah.
So, what are some pitfalls artists should avoid when developing their brand identity? Jenny, I feel like you got like a story or
I have an
something.
opinion. I have
Opinion?
a loud opinion on this. So, you know, I started as a self-taught artist by watching YouTube videos, so I naturally was learning from other artists and mimicking what other artists have done. And that is how I have learned and gotten to where I am, is I truly was mimicking what my peers are doing. Well, some of my peers that I found are literally reproducing the same art over and over and over, and they're selling it. And I'm questioning my own existence here, because my art is different. My art is there is continuity in color and pattern, but they're not the same. And so I questioned, am I doing this right? And I know there's no right or wrong, but for me, I found that a consistent and niche brand doesn't mean I have to reproduce the same art that people have bought. It means that they're buying my art. They're not buying a consistent piece of, they can go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's if they want something everybody else has. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. I think one of the pitfalls is being too inward looking, being too about yourself as a brand. Yes, brand starts from inside, but we need to get past just knowing about me and selling me, and really focus on who you're trying to sell to, who you're trying to convince to either buy your product or use your service. So it needs to be a balance of both. So that's one of the biggest pitfalls, that we are too preoccupied with what we have to offer and not recognizing what is truly needed.
What the audience is experiencing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm kind of going to lead into my next question. How can artists maintain consistency in their brand across different platforms and mediums? Because it's not just, your store, but more of your presence on different platforms as well and different events.
So when I started, I actually was fortunate enough to be able to hire a brand manager. When I left my job, I had some equity that I was able to cash out, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So I hired a brand manager. I put down a deposit with her, and she went through everything down to my handwriting, and she turned my handwriting into a font. And I was able to use that font on my website, my business cards. It's my signature. She also was able to take colors from my art that I was able to use on social media. So it's almost like she started at the very beginning, which was the product, and we worked backwards into developing what we could use across multiple venues.
So when I teach branding to business owners, when it comes to being consistent, I like to focus on 3 touch points and keep that in mind. How do you express yourself as a brand online, everything digital, down to your email that you sent out, okay? And then everything on print, anything that's printed, whether it's your business cards or even your invoicing or banner, or you have the money, your billboard is an on-print touch point. And the last touch point is on-site. So if you have a storefront, that is your on-site touch point, where people actually come in touch with you as a person and in touch with your product. So those are the 3 key areas that you need to think about how consistency can be expressed. So for example, if you're using pink as one of your key visual elements, make sure that color appears on those 3 touch points, however they manifest themselves in your brand. So that's a good way to cover everything when it comes to consistency.
Jenny, how does your brand identity affect and influence your creative process? Does it help? Does it hinder?
It does both. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm in the zone and I'm listening to Taylor Swift and I'm painting and I'm just living it up. And other times I'm really focused on what do my buyers want to buy. I'm too focused on what is being expected of me, not what I want to make at the time. So it really it's a struggle. It can be both.
For me, one of my core values, one of the things that drive me, which is that D in the brand system, is human interaction. For me to be able to develop a good strategy, I need to first understand who I'm developing a strategy for. And so I'm very driven by client who is willing to be vulnerable with me. Whenever I start a branding process, the way my personal brand will affect me is that this client has to be willing to spend at least a month, if not 2, where I'm constantly asking questions. Because there's no way I could develop a solution if I don't really know who I'm doing it for. I always tell people, I can make you look pretty all day long, but I need to make sure you matter first. And to know how you matter and why you matter is by asking questions. So that can be a pitfall because sometimes some clients feel like I ask too much question. I still stand true to that. If you are not willing for me to ask you a question, then we are not a good fit.
So how often should an artist or creative individual assess and potentially rebrand themselves?
This question gave me anxiety.
That's,
The idea of rebranding just
Okay.
sent me through the roof.
that's my passion. That's
Yeah,
my
no,
soapbox.
I can't imagine rebranding, but
Yeah.
so I don't know the answer as to when you would because it feels like something I wouldn't do unless I was absolutely in a position where my art wasn't selling maybe.
That's a good answer. No, I like that. Sometimes just stay in the course. If you're not feeling it, don't force it.
Right.
Um, Vincent, have you maybe you have some stories of some clients who felt like they just needed a new identity?
I feel we misuse the word rebranding way too much. So it's just about understanding what branding is to begin with. A lot of times, and what we see on the news, rebranding is a lot about the visual aspect of a brand, you know, like how Twitter became X. But it needs to be more than that. And don't be too concerned about whether you need to rebrand. Be more concerned about where are you right now in this stage of your business as an artist. You are discovering more and more of yourself every day or every month, right? You're constantly evolving. And so you are technically rebranding as you grow. So it's not something to be afraid of, neither should it be something that we need to be so preoccupied with. Listen to the people that you are serving. listen to the people that you're reaching out to because they are your best sounding board. Are they resonating with this? Are they not resonating with this? Why? And then you evolve. And that is a process, an ongoing process, really, more than I need to do it every 3 years or every 5 years.
Especially evolving while staying true to yourself.
Yes, exactly. You need to stay true to yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you share a personal experience with where branding significantly impacted your career or the career of an artist that you worked with?
I would say branding has impacted my career tremendously. As you're familiar, I have the store, Studio J Berg. It not only has my art, but it has a lot of wholesale items that go with the vibe. And my intention behind that was I wanted people to be able to walk out with a little piece of the experience. So they came in, and not everyone's ready to drop $1,200 on a painting, but they can walk out with a Taylor Swift notebook, and they got to have that experience for the day. So it's almost like taking a little piece of joy with them.
Vincent, you got any stories to share?
Yeah. The audience member is, one of the audience members is very familiar with this story. I personally was so intrigued by the branding of a grocery store in Oklahoma. Oh, they're nationwide, but my first experience with them is so intriguing that I decided to get a job with that grocery store, Trader Joe, because there was something different about them that makes me want to figure out what makes them tick. And so they are one of my success story as far as how I talk about it a lot in a lot of case study. Case in point, one of the key things is they believe in creating an on-site experience when you grocery shop. It's more than just buying something off the shelf. They want you to experience the product and the people. They believe in that so much so that they will never, to this point, sell their product online. There will be people that will buy their product and resell them, but Trader Joe will never sell their product online. Even though with COVID, 4 years ago, they could have made a killing selling online, but because their brand identity in that thing that they value caused them not to waver, and they are still successful.
That's amazing.
So that is just mind-blowing. And one of my personal lessons is I feel like even though I have a college degree, there's no shame in working as a grocery store worker because I learned so much about branding in that 4 years of being behind the scene, more than I have in my 15 years
Wow.
of a brand strategist.
That's
You
cool.
know, so those are the things that, you know, brand has affected me in many ways myself.
I'd like to take a moment and look towards the future. What are some emerging trends in branding for artists that you think we should all be aware of?
I twitch at that word trend
Right.
because when it comes to branding, branding is foundational. There shouldn't be any trend. We are our own brand identity. Discovering ourselves should be an ongoing thing. So when it comes to trend, it's more so the execution of your brand. What are ways right now that you can discover more about your brand and communicate more about your brand? So AI is one of those things that you can use to your own advantage to leverage and understand who you are as a brand. So I'm doing a workshop. In fact, I'm doing one tomorrow at Project 3810. That's one of those workshops that I want to dive into that particular tool for us to explore our own brand. And then social media is another platform. It's just discovering the different channels in which you can express yourself as a brand. That would be more a trend, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's moving to TikTok, and
Oh,
I feel
TikTok,
like
yeah.
I feel like I am the old dog in the room because I'm still on Facebook, and a lot of my clients are on Facebook as well. But I've seen a ton of artists moving to TikTok, and that's how they're identifying with the younger generations, and it's smart. It takes a lot of effort to always be on camera.
It does. As someone who does this quite regularly, it takes so much, and especially because I cross post to all the major platforms, and it can take a whole day just making
Yes.
posts and making content. So we're kind of wrapping it up now. I'd like to open this up to the audience for questions. Does anyone have a question? Feel free to shout it out. I will repeat the question onto the mic so we can hear it, get it captured, recorded. But the floor is open to questions. Jenny, the question was, how can you deal with imposter syndrome when branding yourself?
Really leaning in to who you are and what your art is. I, for so long, thought my art needed to look like other people's art and it needed to present in a certain way or make people feel a certain way or fit in a certain type of home. I started to fail when I did that. So, really just leaning into who you are and accepting who you are, which is the hardest part because we have to look in the mirror and say, okay, I like you. Once you get past that, I feel like the rest just falls into place. But that is easier said than done.
Vincent, you have any words about dealing with imposter syndrome?
So one of, going back to the brand system, right? When we look at the letter R, when evaluating a personal brand, ask yourself this question: who rocks your life? Like the relationship that truly impacted your life, think about those people. Talk to those people. Because those are the people that can be honest with you, but those are the people that can also elevate you. We are not living in this world on our own. So to overcome imposter syndrome is to talk to people that you can trust and people who are willing to give you the hard truth and then help you grow along with it. Yeah.
Jenny, the question was, can you tell us a little bit more about your origin story and like what got you started with your art?
And so, my origin story and what got me started with my art. I was in a very toxic marriage. I had 3 kids and I was working 50-hour weeks, and I desperately needed an outlet. So I literally started with a kid's paint set that my ex-husband brought home. I look back at it and I'm like, I want to punch him in the face because he brought home this kid's paint set and was like, here, play with this. And I did. And I was so excited about it. And I look at it now and I have all my professional paint, and it's just amazing how far I've come. But it was really watching those YouTube videos, and there's a few artists out there that offer their own tutorial classes that I follow on Instagram, and I paid and I supported those artists. It was worth it, and it really helps with your confidence as well to take those classes and see that you can make art kind of like what they made. It's not going to be the same, we know this, but it can be kind of like what they made, and you're learning new techniques from them. But yeah, there was a lot of trial and error.
The question asked was, how do you balance the time of working with your branding, your brand strategy, but while also cranking out content in your work?
If I may ask you more question, so you paint and that is your process. That's the product you actually sell, right? So do you have a specific theme and style that you're known for? If I can try to answer that question in the context of my experience, right? I do a lot of brand development work with my clients, so that would take up a lot of time. When I look at my own brand, as I need to redevelop, and I guess, talk about myself or create content, I will use my client as a case study, and therefore I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm serving my client while I have content to produce. In your context, I can imagine if you're out getting inspired by nature, while you're out there, go set up a camera and let the camera run. Let it capture that moment without you having to spend an extra time. And then when you do set aside time, go review those content and see how would that fit into my social media schedule. Yeah. The social media scheduling is one good way that you have to put time to it so that you are not second guessing, is this fitting to my brand? That you have to put time to. And there are different strategies to go about doing that. Not sure if that's helpful.
I would say for me, I put in 30 to 40% of my time into my branding. Initially, it was heavier, especially when I had a branding coordinator guiding me. If you're familiar with Canva, Canva allows you to set templates based on colors and fonts and things like that, so that helps you with consistency. And it kind of shortcuts your posts because it'll give you template posts of your colors and things like that. You kind of go through that, but it's substantial, and it feels like you're wasting your time because I'm only going to get 7 likes or something, you know? But it's consistency pays. I mean, before this, something that we talked about is that he went to my website and looked at my website before, and it's almost like I forget that people are going to go do their research on you, and you have to have it out there.
If I may add something, use AI in a way that will help you. So in the workshop that I do, by telling AI who you are and then using certain prompt for AI to tell you what are the 5 key things that I need to cover that will reflect me as a brand, and then use that structure to create your calendar so that you know Monday is always about this, Tuesday is always about this, so on and so forth. Now you have a strategy. And whenever you are doing your things that you're passionate about, that you're creating, you will naturally link to those categories. And then that's how your strategy, your branding effort will flesh out in a way that's meaningful, not haphazard. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So if you're free tomorrow, just come by to the workshop at 12. Or he's going to record it.
I'm
It'll
going to
be
record that
available.
workshop, so it'll
Yeah.
be online too. So if you can't make it, no
Yeah,
worries.
It's hard to explain it all out like in this setting. Yeah.
All right. I think we're going to wrap right up here for a moment, and then we'll just let everyone just have a casual chat. But first of all, before we leave, tell us where people can find out more about you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at artbyjberg, Jberg, or you can find me at Studio Jberg at 229 East Main on Main Street in Norman.
I love to talk to people. So if you have the time and space, I will get my business card ready. You can reach out to me, or you can go straight to my website, canyoubrand.me, and that's where you can fill out a quick, form, and then you can reach out to me. Canyoubrand.me.
And you have a book available too. So if you want
I
to
have
learn
an
more
ebook
from
available,
Vincent,
yeah.
he has a book available. Again, thank you everyone for coming to this panel discussion of Art and Victory. We hope to see you next time. Thank you.